Hey everybody, Jake Newton with CPPS, cpps.com. This video, I'm talking about how we've helped clients get consistent with SB-553, particularly with the plan, a little bit with the training. But then I'm going to conclude this video talking about a specific client that we actually worked through that process with, given some of the dynamics that they were trying to solve given the mandate for July 1, 2024. A lot of clients have come to us specifically because of the compliance issue for 553. And we've really delved into that three different ways, as well as based upon client preference, for developing the plan based upon where the organization is headquartered and how they want to address the legislation. So here's what I mean by that. There's really kind of three key ways that we've built out the plan depending on the circumstances. So in one circumstance, we have clients that are in California holistically, and that's where all of their operations are. For that one, it's been pretty straightforward. We would draft up their policy, which is the first document. But then when it came to the purposes of the plan, we would build that out specifically for California, where all of the requirements of the law were within that, as well as some other issues addressing other national standards. Concerns as well, so that it's holistically addressing all of these different capabilities, but it's one plan kind of specific for California. The second capability that we would do, and the second type that we would often perform, is those organizations that are in California, but perhaps have operations to include their headquarters somewhere else. In these instances, there's kind of a couple different tracks we might take. Some clients have been taking their plan and having the California considerations be applicable everywhere for all of their operations, even to include outside of California. So we've been building it out that way. We've also had this other circumstance, though, where organizations want to have California kind of unto itself. So in those circumstances, we would build out the plan that have kind of the national or global requirements based upon other standards and other precedent that's been there for a long time. But then within an appendix, we would include all of the issues for California specific to the state's requirements so that they could have that just basically built in. But then there's this other wrinkle that the law has within it, and another capability that we've been providing, and that is the requirement that the law has. And this kind of applies to each of the scenarios I just mentioned, but we have the requirement in the law to have our plans to be site specific. So within the plan, you've got kind of the overarching guidance, but then based upon site specific hazards or risks, whichever word you like to use, or concerns, when those kind of things come up, we have a site specific component of this that we've built out as well. So there's the availability to then have those specific workplace concerns addressed, incorporated into training, and reflected back into the program. So each of these different things are tailored to the work environment across different, locations within California, or for those that are doing it in that way nationwide or globally as well. All of these different things, of course, when we're building out the training program, have to be put into that as well. And the nice thing about the law is when you have these different site-specific issues come up, you address that within the instance that it occurs. It can be more time and circumstance. But all of these general aspects or considerations, whether it's recognizing what violence is, reporting considerations, responding to emergencies, these core things that we want everybody to know, while having that built into the initial training. So whether it's online or it's in person, everybody's getting that same baseline understanding. So just a little bit of a background there, but as a brief story or a brief case study, if you will, we recently built this program out for a specific organization located in California. They're a utility, and they had a really unique request. They came to us originally recognizing that they had to apply with the law, and their initial request was they wanted us to provide a needs assessment and some other peripheral services as well, but not necessarily applicable to this. But they said they'd like us to provide a needs assessment so they can identify what areas they need to build upon to ensure that they're consistent with the law going into effect as of July 1st, 2024. So we looked at their entire program. And when we do this, we base it on several different components. We base it on federal OSHA guidelines. We base it on the American National Standard published by asis, as well as now the law published by California. So we got all of the program documentation they could provide us. We looked at their training. We looked at their current practices and procedures for responding to incidents, for their hiring practices, their treatment practices, or terminations practices, cultural considerations. And we looked at all of this different information and then benchmarked it to this prevailing guidance. So for their policy, did they have one? Was that in alignment with the standards? Their plan, did they have one? How consistent was it with the applicable law? Incident management procedures, do they have a capability for this? As well as even looking at things such as, which is not required in the law, but things that are relevant to behavioral threat assessment and management, which we know in this space are heavily applicable and synonymous with comprehensive violence prevention. So we looked at all of those considerations. We looked at their emergency response capabilities and benchmarked that. Are they partially consistent with this guidance? Are they fully consistent with this guidance, or did they not have anything in place at all? And at the end of this, we basically submitted that report and provided that to them for their review, their legal team and their multidisciplinary team that was responsible for this. And in that initial report, we basically lay out our observations. Here's kind of where things currently stand. We provided our recommendations of things if there were any deficiencies or gaps, how they can comply with those standards, and some tips on exactly what that looks like so that in an efficient means that they can then apply with the law or other prevailing standards. And of course, the follow-on from that, in this case, it was they actually asked us to help them build out their program. So we had the opportunity to then go and build their policy, build their plan, implement training for their threat management team, and implement training for their employee population so they could have all of these different things in a simplified and synchronized manner from policy all the way through the various layers of training. They have this confidence that each thing is addressing all the different requirements of the law, as well as other national level standards and guidance that's out there that was available long before the law as well. So looking at all of these different considerations and then even having the benefit of tailoring that to their culture was a great little opportunity to be able to help them align with the tight timeline. That's one of the benefits that it really brings, is being able to offload it onto our shoulders and put it into alignment with everything in a shortened and condensed time frame. So it was a big push, but it was definitely a unique project that we were able to do for a client recently. So if you have any questions on how you're trying to now implement the plan, we're past that deadline. We're past this time frame of getting the plan put together and the training put together. At this stage, it's all about the implementation. What does it look like to put the plan into practice that we now have in place? And of course, if you don't have a plan, that's okay too. Feel free to reach out to us and we can give you a really great head start. But that's the key. We got to start to get these things moving forward. So if you have questions, cpps.com, you can reach out to us. We'd love to help you in any manner that we can. Until next time, thanks for watching.